It's a real honor to introduce to you the former governor of Louisiana, Buddy Roemer.
Thank you, Jim. I'm ready for the gumbo, man. Jack, I loved hearing your remarks, and I appreciate your confession and conversion. It's good to have you as a Methodist, man. I'm honored to be here. I want to pay honor to this organization and the coalition of organizations who've decided that in a world that's full of gauze and flim-flam and what can I do for you today, that there might be an issue that could last for a long, long time. Larry Lessig, a professor at Harvard, wrote an interesting book called Republic Lost. And in the last page of that book, he describes Benjamin Franklin coming down the stairs from the floor of the Constitutional Convention where the Constitution had just been signed. And a woman asked him at the foot of the stairs, "What have you wrought?" And he said, "A republic, my lady, if we have the strength to keep it." Now, there are many who think that Washington is broken. I'm one of those. I'm a banker, forgive me. I think excessive debt shrinks a nation. Oh, it loses its space program. Who cares? I remember reading Louisiana history where in the early 1800s an emissary came from France to Thomas Jefferson, our president. And Napoleon said, "We'll sell you Louisiana. I have debts to pay." They bought it for 11 cents an acre. And he repaid the bankers of Belgium. France disappeared from the New World. And America doubled in size. Excessive debt shrinks a nation. We are a nation in trouble. A bigger problem is not debt, it's indebtedness. We're now represented by representatives who don't represent the people. They represent those to whom they are indebted to. And most politicians, I know there are exceptions, I was one. Re-election is not the purpose of service. Service is. I was the only member of Congress that didn't take PAC contributions. This was in the 80s. The only member. Tip O'Neill used to call me and laugh at me, Jim. He said, "You'll never get re-elected, buddy." Hell, I got re-elected 4 times without opposition. No one ran, Democrat or Republican. Because the people knew there was somebody on guard for them. Just that easy, not complicated. Indebtedness. Who are our leaders indebted to? Barack Obama. There's a man of change. I had high hope. I was a big McCain man. I knew him when I served in Congress. We were on opposite sides of the aisles. I was head of a group called the Boll Eagles. 43 conservative Democrats that used to work with the Republicans. I'm used to doing that. I thought that was the American way. But in working with John, I got to know Obama, and I liked his theme. Change. It needed change. What change did we get? I'm a banker. He signed bank reform. Too big to fail is still the law. Glass-Steagall is still dead. Capital ratios don't rise when banks increase in size. They actually go down. And a week after he signed the bill, he went to Wall Street, had a fundraiser at $35,000 a ticket, and it was hosted by Goldman friggin' Sachs. Now, you want to know what's wrong with America? It's a representative government that represents only a few. There's a word for that. In the 18th century, it was called England. That's why there was a revolution. It wasn't that America wasn't free. We were the freest colonies in the history of the world. But the tyranny of a foreign king is now matched by the tyranny of the big check. You know it. I'm a diabetic. I thought our president was correct to say the health reform had to be done. But my approach is different. I would start in the room with doctors, patients, nurses. He started in the room with pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, tort lawyers, lobbyists. Did he get a bill that lowered the cost of health care? Hell no, it raised it. The only thing wrong with health care in America is you can't afford it. It's the cost we need to work on. Do you know insurance companies don't have to compete across the state line? You cannot buy medical insurance across the state line. It's against the law. They're one of the largest givers in contributions to congressmen. And they'll tell you, I remember my first or second day as a congressman. I'm 36. You're never as smart as when you're 36. But I got a call came through, and the guy introduced himself, and he said, I represent the insurance industry. And I said, well, what can I do for you? He said, oh, no, I want to come by and give you a check. I said, for what? He said, for service, man. I said, well, I don't take PAC money. There was a long pause. He says, you don't take PAC money? I said, no. He says, you won't get reelected. He sounded just like the speaker. But it was the first industry call I got from the insurance industry that pays congressmen to make sure they don't have to compete nationwide or regionally. It's 50 monopolies. How about the pharmaceutical? It's funny. I got on the plane this morning in Houston after an early speech, and I'm headed to Washington. I always do that with my heart in my hand. I'm not a big Washington guy. But I'm headed to Washington, and the first person I see on the plane sitting in first class as I go back to where other people are is Billy Tozan, who represented the pharmaceutical. Billy's a great guy, good friend. He and I served in Congress together. But I remember Billy worked all these years on the Energy Committee and regulated pharmaceuticals, and he quit his office one day, and the next day got paid $2 million to represent the pharmaceutical industry. Well, you know, the pharmaceutical industry and Obamacare is protected from Canadian competition. Do you know they're protected by law from price discounting? Is this a great country? We have a tax code that you can't read. We have a tax code where one of the workers in my bank, and I built a bank that's about $1 billion in size, no bailout. We didn't foreclose on a single mortgage holder. It's not that I'm a Methodist and a decent guy. It's good business. How about that for a principle? It's good business to treat your clients like they're gold. I watch all of these industries get regulated by Washington. And I know who wins the day. The big checks do. It's real easy. You want to follow the debate? Measure the size of the checks. We're going to talk about solutions. But the first key to solving the budget problem or the tax problem or the trade problem with China, I've been to China more times than all the other candidates put together. I mean, I've been to 400 plants. I've watched 8-year-olds work 12 hours a day. And those products roll across our country. You couldn't open that plant in New Hampshire or Iowa or South Carolina. It would be illegal. And yet we take those goods like, no problem. What is wrong with America? I want a president to stand for smart trade, for fair trade. I want a president to put working people first. I want a president to be free to lead. Just that simple. Doesn't have to agree with me on every issue. No one does. Ask my wife. No one does. A brave woman. A brave woman. A registered nurse. I can tell how the day in the hospital went when she comes home, whether she's crying or not. What a powerful job. I love America. I think America is in some difficulty. And I don't think the answer is the Republican Party. I don't think the answer is the Democratic Party. The answer might come from either party or from an independent like me. But I'm going to tell you the test that I want you to apply. Is she or he free to leave? If you meet that test, you could be Abraham Lincoln. All right, thanks.